Hey everybody, welcome to our Fluid Thinking Live event. My name is Stephanie Bourne. I'm the brand manager here for Peak Commercial and Industrial, and I'm so excited about today's event. Today we are going to talk all about the new oil service category, SN+. And to discuss all the details around this new category, we have our product expert, Mr. Terry Noland. Welcome, Terry.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thanks for having me, folks.
Absolutely. So we're sitting here in our Chicago headquarters, and we have several people on today, our audience, and they are so excited to learn from you. And so we are.
Well, that's good. I have a lot to share.
You do. So you've been in the industry for about 20 years, and you have a passion for oil.
I do.
Excellent.
I do. My history actually started with engine oils, and way back in the day. And we just got a lot of technology developments that are going, and we want to make sure that we share with all of our customers.
Wonderful, wonderful. Before we get started, though, just a couple of housekeeping tips. Those that are on today, we are actually recording this live, and we will have a replay. So for those that couldn't join us today, feel free to share it with those in the future. And then also, we will have a Q&A at the end today. And so if you haven't done so already, go ahead and start submitting your comments and your questions in the comments below, and we will try to get to as many as we can. But we will have 5 lucky winners that are going to be chosen today. And of those 5, you will receive a Peak Commercial and Industrial Yeti tumbler. It's worth $40 retail value, and we'll be able to send those out to you just for saying thank you for participating and submitting your questions. So with that said, Terry, you ready to get started?
I am.
All right. So I'm going to just sit back and relax, and I just wanted to really ask, what exactly is SN+, this new category?
Right, SN+. SN+ is the new oil service category from the American Petroleum Institute that's issued to try to mitigate issues concerning low-speed pre-ignition in turbo gas direct injection engines.
Okay, so turbo gas direct injection engines. That's a mouthful. So TGDI.
That's what we'll call it at this point forward. It's TGDI.
Okay,
Absolutely.
So what exactly is a TGDI engine?
A TGDI engine is a different design in which we're no longer injecting the fuel through the intake manifold through a valve directly into the engine, or through the indirectly into the engine. We're now injecting the fuel directly into the engine using high efficiency fuel injectors that better vaporize the fuel.
Okay.
In the past, we see that these fuel injectors, let's bring up an example here, Sean, showing them what this looks like.
Oh, wonderful.
So this is an injector that Bosch produces that will inject the fuel directly into the cylinder under high pressure and very high vapor. As a result, you get a more complete burn of all of the amount of fuel that's in there, better burn, more efficient fuel use, better fuel economy. But there are some disadvantages that come with any type of technology, and the primary disadvantage has to do with increased temperature as a result of this affecting pistons, cylinders, timing chains, basically everything centered around the increased temperature inside that cylinder.
Okay. We had mentioned before about low speed pre-ignition, LSPI. That's kind of a term that's used in the industry. What exactly is that?
Well, LSPI, low speed pre-ignition, also known as supernaught, is a condition that can occur when you have a highly efficient engine in which the fuel during a compression cycle, and Sean, let's bring up a video and show what we're looking at here. This is a 4-cylinder engine with all the pistons connect to a crankshaft, and if you'll notice, the crankshaft is all spinning in the same direction.
Okay.
That is all due to timing on combustion, controlled by spark ignition. Now, let's move on to the next one, and what's happening in LSPI? You have the intake, compression, power, and the exhaust that constitutes the 4-stroke process for a gasoline engine. What happens in LSPI is that the fuel, if it can self-detonate without a spark, is occurring in the compression cycle. That's when the fuel has come into the chamber during intake, is pushing and then returning the piston to the top end of the cylinder, pressurizing that fuel further, and then the spark plug would, in the power stroke, as it's termed, force it down in the other direction. If compression occurs, or if the fuel ignites prematurely in the compression stage, it can force the crankshaft to go in the opposite direction.
Oh, wow.
Therefore, it's fighting all the other cylinders working, and we can see the results of some of these things as a result. Bring up the piston picture, if you would, Sean.
Oh, wow.
This is what can happen if you have multiple LSPI events over time. And it creates catastrophic damage. Unfortunately, all the attributes that go into making LSPI occur are still unknown. But one of the things that we did identify, we're going to talk about in just a minute, has to do with some chemistry changes that we were able to make in the oil itself in order to help mitigate some of those attributes.
Okay, okay. So you have currently the SN category, and now we have SN plus.
Right.
So what's the difference between those two?
Well, SN essentially was a service category that still applies to all other engines, okay? SN Plus, again, is specifically targeting these TGDI engines. And the reason for that, of course, is, like I said, for the increase in LSPI. There's a formulary change that occurred between SN and SN Plus that have to do with the calcium level.
Oh, okay.
There are calcium additives inside of SN, or inside of all engine oils, that have to do with anti-wear, that have to do with alkalinity, reserve alkalinity, and have to do with detergency and dispersant in general. And these are additives that have been used for decades, and they've proven to be very efficient. The issue is now that we have taken the fuel to this maximum efficiency of burn, a study was conducted to determine that these calcium levels, calcium itself, can be a catalyst that can contribute to LSPI, and as a result, we needed to find an alternative to this. Now, it didn't mean that calcium was eliminated. These calcium additives were just reduced, and other additives were put in place to make up for the difference that these calcium additives were providing. That way, the lower calcium levels would not provide that catalyst.
Okay, all right. So in this new SN Plus category, are there performance criterias that are needed in order to use this particular oil in the newer engines or the TGDI engines?
TGDI engines? Okay. As far as the performance of SN Plus versus SN, what we have is an increase in not only mitigating the LSPI, but trying to address concerns with timing chain wear. And Sean, if you'll bring up that one slide to show you how peak motor oil proven performance. And what we did was we looked at what the SN Plus requirements were for the new engine oil category, trying to address timing chain wear, oxidation testing, and they were also focusing on additional turbocharger cleanliness. And as you can see by what we've been able to achieve in our Beyond SN Plus, shows a significant increase in that performance. Again, this is SN Plus that can be applied to any passenger car engine oil that's being used today. So it's all completely backward compatible.
Oh, nice.
And the other nice thing is going to the serviceability being backward compatible, you needn't have to worry about whether or not, is SN Plus, or do I have the engine oil applicable to my engine if you use SN Plus, because of that backward compatibility.
So there's really no question that peak SN Plus outperforms the current API SN.
Correct.
And even outperforms based on the bullet points that you had listed there.
In fact, since we saw such a performance increase with the formulary changes that we made, we at Peak made a decision that we were going to carry SN Plus chemistry across all of our passenger car engine oils.
Okay.
So other producers may be only affecting the 5W and, the 0W and the 5W grades, because those are the oils more focused towards those TGDI engines.
Okay.
We wanted to make sure that people had options, and that our customers wouldn't have to worry about carrying an SN and an SN Plus. We did it across all of the grades of the passenger car and across all of our brands, being the full synthetic blend, high mileage oils, and our conventional engine oils are all transitioning over to SN Plus.
So it's covered the whole gamut.
The whole gambit.
Awesome, awesome. So with this new oil service category, we have a variety of people that are on today. How does this impact their businesses?
Well, we're hoping that it's going to make things simpler for them, not having to even concern themselves about, again, SN versus SN Plus. Right now, SN Plus is a rolling in category, that was approved by API last year, and which many have, including ourselves, have started the transition over a few months ago. Most of the oils that we're producing now have already transitioned over to SN Plus. So as soon as all of our current finished goods roll out of inventory for SN, we'll be immediately going right into SN Plus. The nice thing that makes it easier for our customers as well is that we are still carrying the same legacy codes that we were for SN, so it makes life simpler as far as ordering is concerned.
Okay, phenomenal. Now I know we mentioned earlier about the TGDI engines. So how does a person know if they actually have a TGDI engine?
That's a great question because not everybody knows the car when they buy it unless they're reading that little sticker on the side that says the type of engine that it is. There's two ways to know. One is, of course, you could contact your dealership and they would be able to tell you based on the VIN number, because you could have a model automobile that may have two different types of engine inside of it. Okay. So the best way to know is to contact your dealership, and they'll be able to share with you the information about your specific model. Your owner's manual will probably also have some information in it as well.
Okay, phenomenal. Now the products that we have here today, these are all readily available to order today?
Yes, we are on a rolling change for finished goods.
Okay.
Right now for packaged goods, all of our bulk oils have already transitioned over.
Okay.
And that includes things such as drums and smaller package types like maybe buckets and whatnot.
Okay.
All of our small package goods that we are moving over in very high volumes will probably be turning over, I'm thinking, many of them are starting now, but by probably mid-September.
Okay, phenomenal, phenomenal. And this particular category is specific to just gas engines, gas automobiles, correct?
Well, it's what was specific to address issues with inside those TGDI engines.
Okay.
Again, the fluid, the service category is completely backward compatible to all SN, all previous grades. And in fact, I recall someone asking me something about, well, what if I use SJ, for example? You can use SN Plus in those applications.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. So at this point, what we'd like to do is to look to the questions that some of our customers have sent in.
Questions, I love questions.
And be able to answer them. So
we'll do our best.
We'll do our best, and actually you're on the hook for answering these questions.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and get to it. So our first question comes to us from Nicholas, and he is based out of Iowa.
Hi, Nicholas.
I have family in Iowa. And his question is, my understanding is that SN Plus addresses concerns with timing, chain wear, and LSPI. How long have manufacturers been recommending lubricants that they knew would not perform satisfactorily to withstand the concerns addressed in this new rating?
Well, first, Nicholas, let me say, I think that as soon as they became aware of an increase in LSPI among these smaller engine designs, they immediately got in contact with the Society of Automotive Engineers, that's SAE, to try to identify whether these issues for increasing LSP were mechanically, by design, affecting increases in LSPI, whether they were, and what could they do to try to mitigate that. And for years, even in non-TGDI engines, they would increase the amount of fuel actually going in to the cylinder in a wetting process, basically, to try to keep pre-ignition from happening. Because of the super efficiency of these new injectors vaporizing the fuel, they really don't have that much of control anymore. Putting more fuel in just means you're adding more vapor to the fire for the combustion cycle. So as soon as they started looking into more in the in-depth challenges that were coming back from field warranty claims, they immediately started looking into SAE and what could be the contributing factors. And as I mentioned, oil's only been, or calcium I should say, has only been identified as the contributing factor to LSPI. That's only one of many potential engineering attributes that could be contributing to LSPI. So as soon as the study had identified calcium, that's when SAE reached out to API and said, what can we do about lowering the calcium level yet delivering better protection? And so they decided that in API, or I'm sorry, in the SN Plus service category, to not only try to address the issues of LSPI, but to try to address timing chain wear, to try to address increasing the the resistance to thermal oxidation of the engine oil itself.
Okay.
So those are the significant improvements that we've achieved.
Wow, fantastic. Hopefully, Nicholas, that answers your question. And the second question comes to us from Albert. He's based out of Panama City, Florida. And his question is, with all the time and money spent for research and development on SN+, was SN+ developed due to any deficiency that was found in the synthetic motor oils that are currently in use?
No, I wouldn't term it as a deficiency because of the fact that no one was even aware that there was an issue, even with all the pre-testing that were done with these TGDI engines back a few years ago. It takes a lot of hours, a lot of field time, and a lot of warranty claims to review to determine whether or not there's a specific link to something that's a growing concern. So it wasn't as much as there's a deficiency in the oil until the study was conducted to determine that calcium might have been is obviously determined to be a contributor to LSPI.
All right, fantastic. So our next question comes to us from Al. He's based out of Massachusetts, and his question is, what is the consensus of OEM to this product and its impact on their warranties? What do you have to say about that?
It's kind of linked to the previous question, and that is, of course, OEM claims are something of real concern to them when they see that there's perhaps an issue, in this case LSPI, that they need to address. And as far as the warranty coverage, they have been requesting for some time to get a change in the service category, this new oil service category, so that they could at least check that one off as the contributor to LSPI. So do I see that we're going to have a significant decrease in LSPI? Well, based on the evidence that we have for the new formulation that we showed earlier, there is a decrease as a result of lowering that calcium additive type level. But does it solve all the LSPI issues? No. I don't think that it does. Okay.
Al, hopefully that addresses your question. So our next question comes from Brad. He's based out of Van Buren. And is SN Plus superior in protection against high temp wear versus SN? And also, does SN Plus promote fuel economy any better than SN? So kind of a two-part question.
Right. Let's take the first part. Yes, there's a significant advantage and increase in the resistance to thermal viscosity breakdown as a result of higher temperatures, higher operating temperatures. The engine oil today must not only satisfy lubricating the crankshaft and the piston, the cylinder, the liners. It's also required to lubricate and control buildup of deposits, try to resist deposits in the turbochargers. So that focus, in addition to LSPI, in addition to timing chain wear, these are all things that are significant improvements over SN.
Oh, wow, fantastic. Okay. And then we're going to take one more question, and it comes from Jared. He's based out of Omaha. And his question is, how does this new category compare with 10W30 CK4 oils?
It's a good question because, and if I haven't said it, please let me reiterate right now. API SN Plus is intended for use in gasoline engines. Diesel engines operate under a different technology. In fact, diesel ignitions don't use spark plugs. They actually compress the fuel, and not to get off on a sidetrack here, but they actually create the combustion by compressing the fuel, and at such a rate that they end up with the combustion cycle that they do. The point being is that CK4 and any other heavy-duty diesel engine oil would not be recommended in these TGDI engines. The reason being is that diesel engines require a different technology to control more soot, and those calcium additives I talked about are at much higher elevations. In fact, even prior to API SN, or prior to API SN Plus, the calcium levels in diesel engine oils were even higher than SN. So it's not an oil that would be recommended to be used in a turbo gas direct injection engine.
And if I'm not mistaken, we have done a Fluid Thinking Live in the past regarding CK4.
Right. When we introduced our CK4 enhancements over CJ4 last year, we did a webinar on that, and I strongly recommend all of our viewers to go out and grab hold of that and look at that. It showed great insights into the 3 different viscosities, 5W40, full synthetic,
Okay.
10W30, meant to be a fuel economy enhancement for diesel engines, and the CK4 15W40 workhorse.
Okay, well, when we send out the replay, we'll definitely have to link that up so that people can watch that as well, so they can see both sides, both gasoline and diesel.
Okay. One last thing I want to mention is that, again, SN Plus for ease and convenience has been applied across all of our passenger car engine oil lines. So you can expect that in ordering our products, you're going to see a migration that immediately goes over.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Well, Terry, I can't thank you enough for being on today and sharing
Thank
all
you.
your wisdom, with the team. And so for those that are watching today, if you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to your peak sales representative. And once again, thank you so much, Terry, for sharing your knowledge today.
Thank you for having me.
And until next time, we'll see you later.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.